You weigh 280 pounds. You are a 7-month-old Yorkshire Duroc cross, and you are pink, hairless, and shaped like a barrel, someone inflated slightly past the recommended pressure. You live in a confinement building on a 4,000-head hog operation outside of Ames, Iowa, in a pen with 17 other pigs, on a concrete slatted floor under fluorescent lights that never turn off. You do not have a name. You have a number. Ear tag 7214. Your daily care is managed by a 26-year-old farm technician named Travis, who is responsible for all 4,000 of you, which means your individual relationship with Travis consists of him walking past your pen once a day and occasionally poking you with a sorting board to see if you're still alive. Travis feeds you a corn-soybean ration formulated to convert you from 50 pounds to market weight, 280 pounds, in exactly 165 days. You are, in engineering terms, a protein conversion machine. You eat 6.8 pounds of feed per day and gain 1.9 pounds. Your feed conversion ratio is 3.5 to 1. Which is the metric that matters to the people who own you, and you are owned by a corporation headquartered in Virginia that has never seen you and does not know your ear tag number. You have never been outside, never seen sunlight. You have never rooted in dirt, which is what pigs are supposed to do, because pigs are not supposed to live on concrete under fluorescent lights. You are one of the most intelligent non-primate mammals on Earth, smarter than dogs, capable of using mirrors, solving multi-step puzzles, and recognizing individual human faces, and you have spent your entire life in a space smaller than a parking spot. This is about to change. Dramatically. On a Wednesday, 6:33 a.m., July 16th, Travis does not arrive. Every human on Earth, simultaneously, gone. The automated feeders run until 2 p.m. when the backup generator exhausts its diesel. The fans stop, the ventilation stops. The building, designed to keep 4,000 pigs alive through mechanical climate control, begins to heat. By hour 8, the temperature inside exceeds 100 degrees. Pigs cannot sweat. They have almost no functional sweat glands, one of the few genuine design oversights in an otherwise brilliant animal. In the wild, they cool themselves in mud wallows. In a concrete building with no mud, no water, and no airflow, they begin to die. Hour 16. You are in a corner of your pen. The pig next to you, 7,215, is dead. You do something that will define the next 50 million years of your lineage. You push against the pen gate with your snout. Your snout, 5,000 pounds of force per square inch, more than a German shepherd's bite, bends the latch. You are out. Day 2. You and approximately 600 surviving pigs push through a loading door that was never fully secured. The Iowa sun hits your skin for the first time. It burns immediately. Pink, hairless, domesticated pig skin was not built for UV exposure. You find a creek bed 200 yards from the building. You submerge yourself. You are standing in mud for the first time in your life, and something in your brain, something ancient, something that 7 months of concrete and fluorescent lights could not erase, recognizes it. Here is the thing about pigs that the pork industry would prefer you not think about too hard. They are already wild animals wearing a very thin disguise. The domestic pig, Sus scrofa domesticus, is the same species as the Eurasian wild boar, Sus scrofa, not a close relative, not a cousin. The same species. They interbreed freely. The genetic distance between your average farm pig and a wild boar is smaller than the distance between a Chihuahua and a Great Dane. And the reversion is shockingly fast. Studies have documented feral pigs developing coarse hair, elongated snouts, and tusk growth within a single generation. Not over centuries, within months. The genes for wild were never deleted. They were suppressed. And they are switching back on like someone found the breaker panel. By day 7, you are rooting. Your snout, that 5,000 psi biological excavator, is turning over Iowa topsoil for grubs, worms, tubers, and roots. You are eating everything. Pigs are true omnivores, one of the most dietary flexible mammals on Earth. Corn, acorns, grass, insects, eggs, carrion, small mammals, snakes, frogs. If it has calories, you eat it. Travis's corn-soybean ration has been replaced by the entire ecosystem. 1 month. You are physically unrecognizable. Coarse, dark bristles are emerging across your back. Your snout is elongating under the mechanical stress of constant rooting. Your skin is darkening with melanin. You are becoming a wild boar in real time. This is not evolution. This is phenotypic plasticity, a single organism changing its appearance in response to the environment without genetic change. The genes were always there. The concrete floor just never asked for them. The sows are pregnant. Pig gestation. 114 days. 3 months. 3 weeks. 3 days. The first feral litters will arrive by November. Born in mud instead of concrete, nursing from mothers eating wild forage. Darker. Hairier. Faster. Natural selection hasn't even started yet, and pigs are already halfway back to the wild. The first decade, it is an ecological catastrophe. There were 74 million domestic pigs in the United States, plus 6 to 9 million already feral across the South. Within 5 years, the combined population, 2 litters per year, 6 to 12 piglets each, exceeds 200 million. They are everywhere. They are destroying everything. Rooting tears up ground cover, accelerates erosion, destroys native plants. A single sounder of 20 pigs can destroy an acre overnight. By year 10, the feral pig is the most ecologically destructive large mammal in North America, and the primary prey species for expanding canid and big cat populations, which is the only thing preventing total ecosystem collapse. The first fully wild generation shows the complete phenotype. Tusks reaching 4 inches. Dark, bristled coats. Elongated skulls. Shoulder shields. Thickened tissue, protecting the neck during male combat. Ear tag 7,214 is long gone. What stands in its place is a 350-pound wild boar. A century. The predator-prey arms race is reshaping both sides. Males are reaching 450 pounds. Tusks curving upward, self-sharpening as upper and lower grind against each other, shoulder shields thickening into armor that deflects canid bites. Females are getting faster and more cautious, smaller body, quicker acceleration, tighter sounder cohesion. Sexual dimorphism increasing as males are selected for combat, females for evasion. Their intelligence, already extraordinary, is being honed by predation. Alarm call systems are growing more sophisticated. Sounders post sentinels. Escape routes are memorized and transmitted socially across generations. They are getting smarter. For everything else in the ecosystem, this is the worst possible news. 1,000 years. Adaptive radiation. In the swamps and river systems of the former Mississippi Basin, now a vast, unmanaged floodplain, a semi-aquatic pig, heavy-bodied, short-legged, with a broad snout adapted for rooting in submerged mud, dense, waterproof bristles. It spends hours submerged in warm water, feeding on tubers, crayfish, and freshwater mussels. It is converging, unmistakably, on the hippo body plan. In the forests of Appalachia, a smaller omnivore, 150 pounds, agile, arboreal capable. It climbs fallen logs and low branches to access fruit, nuts, and bird nests. Its trotters are widening, developing more flexible digits for gripping. On the Great Plains, a large, herd-forming grazer, 500 pounds, longer legs, a digestive system shifting toward more efficient cellulose fermentation, it is filling the bison niche. Not because it's built like a bison, but because the niche is empty and pigs will fill anything. 10,000 years. The plains grazer has scaled up, 800 pounds. Legs proportionally longer than any suid in history. The snout has broadened into a flat grazing platform. Male tusks exceed 8 inches. Curved, self-sharpening, used in mating displays where males circle each other, clashing with a sound that carries across the grassland. The semi-aquatic lineage has gone fully riparian, 12 hours a day in water, nostrils and eyes high on the skull. It weighs 1,200 pounds and is, functionally, the new hippopotamus of North America. A pig became a hippo because the niche asked, and pigs never say no. 100,000 years. Pig descendants have spread across every continent except Antarctica. Many lineages descend from feral populations that were already established worldwide before humans vanished. The island dwarf, 80 pounds, compact, omnivorous, fills the ecological role of the wild peccary on Caribbean islands. The mountain specialist, thick-coated, barrel-chested, grazes alpine meadows in the Rockies. The tropical forest rooter has developed a proboscis, an elongated, flexible snout used for reaching fruit on high branches and probing deep into termite mounds. A pig with a trunk. Evolution is not subtle. 1 million years. Pig descendants occupy herbivore, omnivore, and scavenger niches across 4 continents. 15 distinct species. The plains megagrazer exceeds a ton. Matriarchal herds of 50 to 100, with migration routes spanning hundreds of miles. Males compete in tusking tournaments during autumn rut, 8-inch tusks clashing like splitting wood. The aquatic lineage has produced a coastal marine forager, streamlined, broad flippers derived from trotters. It feeds on kelp and shellfish in tidal zones. The forest lineage has produced the most unsettling descendant in the series, a nocturnal pack-hunting omnivore, 200 pounds, long-legged, with binocular vision. It hunts in groups of 6, using intelligence sharpened by 1,000,000 years of selection to ambush prey in darkness. A predatory pig, hunting in packs, 10 million years. A misty dawn on a tropical floodplain, somewhere in what was once the American South. A shape surfaces, 2,000 pounds. A broad, armored skull breaks the waterline. Nostrils flaring, eyes scanning. It exhales with a percussive blast that scatters birds from the nearby bank. Its body is submerged, massive, buoyant. Its skin is thick, gray, nearly hairless, convergently identical to the hippopotamus that once ruled African rivers. It rises. Water cascades off a back as wide as a car. It walks, slow, deliberate, unstoppable, onto a mud flat where its kind have gathered. 30 of them wallowing. Calves nurse. Bulls display. Mouths open, tusks gleaming. 12 inches of curved ivory that grew from the same genome that once produced a 7-month-old Yorkshire Duroc cross on a concrete floor in Iowa. A predator watches from the tray line, long-legged, intelligent, descended from pigs too. The nocturnal hunting lineage, 200 pounds of coordinated menace. It watches the calves. It calculates. The bull sees it. He turns. He opens his mouth, a display that exposes tusks, molars, and a throat capable of producing a vocalization so deep it vibrates in the predator's chest cavity. The predator leaves. The bull returns to the wallow. He rolls. Mud coats his flanks, his shoulders, his neck. Mud. The first thing his ancestor touched when it broke free from a concrete building 10 million years ago. The thing that switched everything back on. None of them remember Travis. None of them remember the pen, or the ear tag, or the corn-soybean ration, or the fluorescent lights that never turned off, or the 165 days from birth to slaughter that 7 billion of their ancestors never survived. None of them remember being owned, and that, more than the tusks, more than the size, more than the 10 million years, is the evolution that mattered. If that one felt heavier than the others, it's because it is. Hit like if you'll never look at a pig the same way. Subscribe if you want to see what else breaks free. And tell me in the comments, did you know pigs were this intelligent before this video? Because they are, and they always were. We just didn't build the system around that. See you in the next video.